All right. Hello, everyone. This is Aneel Khowaja. I'm a registered migration agent, co-founder, and channel. Welcome, everyone. Uh, Due to some technical issues, we were not able to start at 3. So now we are back. So let me introduce myself. I'm Aneel Khowaja, registered migration agent, co-founder, and director Think High Consultants. Today, our topic for the slide is, can you just go back to the first slide? Yeah. So our topic is Australian Skill Migration Program. We would be discussing majority on the skilled and general migration visas, along with the processes and what exactly the state sponsorship requirements and options we do have, especially for those who are offshore. So let's start with our agenda first. So our agenda for today's presentation is skill migration, as we already spoken. Subclass 190, subclass 491 and subclass 189. ये 3 वीजा सब क्लासेस हैं जिस पे हम मेनली बात करेंगे. Then we have some skill assessment bodies which we need to cover, like ACS, PETASYS, Engineer Australia, APRA, and CPA. Very tough words, but we got to know about this one very soon, what exactly these are and what purpose they serve during the migration process. Okay, so let's start with the subclass 190 first. So that's again me. So we are all obsessed with my name and picture. So let's start with the 189. So 189 generally is a 5 years visa, which is also called as the permanent residency visa. What are the eligibility requirements? The basic are your occupation must be in MLTSSLS. So MLTSSLS is also called as the PR list. So generally when the agency or agents refer you, they generally refer to this list. Another requirement is that it is the point based. So you need to have at least have the maximum points in order to apply for the general skill migration. The point may vary from minimum 65 points. It can go up to 110 points. Dependability, what occupation, which state. Even 189 is not a state sponsorship of which occupation you're applying for and when exactly which part of the year you're applying for. We need to look into that matter. All right. Now the fourth important. Can you just go back? Sorry. So the fourth requirement is the skill assessment, which is also called as the qualification assessment. It's a mandatory requirement for any general skill migration. Without the skill assessment, you cannot apply. Now there is a prerequisite we already discussed that you should have at least 65 points or minimum 6 in each in IELTS. We have equivalent English test results as well, just like you can go out PT, you can go with the OAT, CAE, TOEFL, and many more. So a lot more to explore. We will be discussing the due course during our presentation. Let's go to the next slide. Now the second subclass, which is the most important one. Now let's go to the reference to context to the 189. At the moment, 189 subclasses invitations are not coming by the Department of Home Affairs just because due to their internal policy, they are not inviting much. Last few months, like at least 1 or 2 months, they have just started doing the 189 invitations, but that is not many. Most likely they have done it for the medical professions like nurses or medical research scientists, those which are very much closely related to the COVID-19. Apart from that, they have also invited few civil engineers, but again, it's not many. So we need to keep a close eye until 1st Jan 2022 in order to have we are speculating that we'll get more invitations for 189, but let's see how things go. Now let's go back to the 190 state sponsorship. It's again a 5 years visa, also called as a permanent residency visa. Occupation can be from MLTSL list. So it's MLTSSL list, not MTSSL list. So we have some sort of a typo, but again, that's not an issue. STSO list, or they need to work out from the state or territory list. So what the state and territory lists are, each state generally gives you a list for throughout the year. So you need to select your occupation from that, check the prerequisite and the requirements. If you meet that, then only you would able to apply for the further process, because if you're not meeting the state requirement, there is no point of doing a skill assessment. So generally we do a reverse assessment or reverse engineering of this skill assessment migration, in which we generally wanted to see whether you meet the state requirement or 190491 requirement in order to spend your hard-earned money into skill assessment. If you won't, then ultimately there's no point, as I already said. Third point is that it needs to be invited by the state and territory. So since we said that you need to meet the state requirements, you need to at least apply for an application. So there are certain requirements need to meet, and there are certain different types of applications where sometimes the state asks for only to lodge an EOI, whereas few states ask for to apply a separate application. So apart from EOI, you also need to apply a state application. So we will be discussing on this one again in the due course. Minimum points requirement again is 65. So if you have 50, states give you 15 points more. So it's altogether 65, which you need to meet. And just beg your pardon, for 190, you need minimum 60. State gives you 5 points. It's for 491, which is the next slide, where you need to have minimum 50 points, and then state gives you 15 points. Let's go to the 491 now. Again, a 5-year visa, but a provisional one. Have a conditional PR where you need to work and live in the regional area for next 3 years. So as soon as you get a 491, you're in Australia, you have to live and work in regional area for 3 years. Now again, your occupation must be in MLTSL list, STO list, ROL list, and also state and territory list. So these all are lists you can check it out. There is an easier way to do it, is to go to eligible occupation list on a department website, put your occupation, they will let you know which subclasses you can apply. That's the easiest and the quickest way to do it. Again, 491 is a state sponsor visa, so you must need to be nominated by state or territory. Now, there is a difference between state and territory. Everybody knows that there are several states and there are two main territories, Northern Territory and ACT. ACT is the main capital. The capital city is Canberra, we all know. Just like for Pakistan is Islamabad, in Australia it's Canberra. Now there is a specific requirement needs to meet, as we said, that you need to work and live for last 3 years in regional area post grant. You also need to make sure that you're earning 53,900 plus super. So 53,900 plus super is the specific requirement needs to meet for minimum 3 years. So you get a 5-year visa, you need to specific needs to work for 3 years with minimum this much salary. Let's go to the next slide. So now let's come to the point testing. So we've spoken about 65 points. Now let's see how the 65 points we need, how we calculate the 65 points. So this is a calculator, it's quite vague at the moment and quite blurry. So we'll go one by one in detail what exactly the factors are which gives you that points criteria. Age points, 25 to 32, you'll get the maximum. So this age bracket, the second one, leads you to the maximum points. Apart from that, if you're 18 to 24, you get 25 points, 33 to 39, you get 25 points. perfectly fine. Still, you would able to apply, but again, 5 points leads to a lesser points. Now, there is an English requirement needs to meet. For the English, you need a competent English along with, that's a basic requirement to meet the competent English, which gives you the 0 points. If you go with a proficient English, that leads to the 10 points, and superior English will give you 20 points max. So that is somewhere around, if you need the maximum points, then superior English is the best way to go for. Superior English is also called as, in IELTS, we normally refer as 8 each. So if you're an 8 each, then you go with the superior English. If we speak about PT, it's somewhere around 79 each. So 79 each is equivalent to 8 each. 8 each is equivalent to superior English. The reason is to give you this specifically the superior English one is to focus more on English, so at least get the maximum. That's where you have the control in. Rest of the factors, obviously, if you don't have up to 8 years of experience, you can't claim points. But English, you can make yourself work hard and get more points. Skill employment outside Australia. There are they have divided into two different types of skill employment. One is the outside Australia, other one is inside Australia. That is mainly called the onshore experience. We're talking about the offshore one. So minimum points you'll get 5 when you reach up to 3 years of experience. So that is 36 months of experience is required. Now, if you need to get more points, then you need to have 5 years of experience up to 7 years to get 15 points. 8 to 10 years leads to the 15 points. Now, here is a catch. Say if you are not working into your nominated occupation, for instance, you are a mechanical engineer and you're not working as a mechanical engineer, you won't be able to claim the skill employment. So it has to be in the nominated occupation. So say, for instance, lots of people study something, but they have experience in different industry, that won't work out for you. So you have to be in the nominated occupation. Now, state gives you, we already spoken about this one, 189 is not the state sponsor, so obviously you won't be getting any points for that. Skill nomination, and then we have skill regional points, 5. This one is 15 points. There is a typo here. So generally the skill regional subclass will give you 15 points, not 10 points. All right, let's go to the next slide. Skill employment in Australia. So generally skill employment in Australia leads to more points in general. So if you have 1 year of experience leads to 5 points, 3 years leads to 10 points, 5 years 15 points, and 8 years 20 points. So you can see in this circumstances, 8 years leads to 20 points compared to the offshore 15 points. Education, everybody knows about this one. It's quite common these days. Diploma gives you 10 points. Bachelor's up to master's, even master of research gives you 15 points. Then the next level goes to the PhD. PhD gives you 20 points. But doing a master of research leads to some additional points if you're studying in Australia. For instance, here in specialist education qualification, this is called the STEM studies: science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and medicine. So if you do a master of research in these industries, you'll be able to grab another 10 points for the master of research, and doctoral degree will also give you 10 points. So technically PhD and master of research gives you more points towards your point testing. Now for Australian study requirement, that is the basic requirements to meet 92 weeks of study. That is generally 2 years. So 2 साल का study लाजमी है, 2 साल study करेंगे तो additional 5 points मिलेंगे. So study in Australia leads to how much points? Specialist education, then we have study requirement points. Obviously you're getting diploma, bachelor's or master, whatever you're doing it, points as well. And there's another additional points. So if you go to the next slide, the additional points of study in regional Australia as well. So ultimately, if you can see, that would be altogether, if you're doing a Master of Research in Australia, that leads to 15, 10, 5, and 5. So you get at least around 30 points in order to meet, the permanent residency requirement would be quite easy to meet. Now we have some additional ways to increase the points. Community language CCL. So generally you do the CCL from anywhere around the world. It's a NATI accredited test where you need to be an interpreter between your mother tongue and the English. So there's a test, you need to practice that one. It's quite expensive, somewhere around $900 you need to spend for the test. And the passing rate is somewhere around 60 to 70%. So you need to practice more in order to do the CCL. But it's a good opportunity for offshore applicants now. During the COVID, they have started the online test. Apart from that, it was only based in Australia. So now you anywhere around the world you can do this test. Now being single is blessing in disguise. Give you 10 points. So no offense to married people, but then again, if you're married, then you have to work more hard. Your partner needs to get competent English along with the skill assessment. So अगर आप लोगों ने शादियां नहीं की हैं और पोस्ट एंड परमानेंट रेसिडेंसी के लिए जा रहे हैं तो वेट फॉर इट, कुछ साल और वेट कर लें, होपफुली थिंग्स गोना बी बेटर. Now there's another way to do it is a professional year in Australia. A professional year जो है वो 3 streams में ही होता है, engineering, IT and accounting. So if you have studied in Australia, then only you would able to do the professional year program. ये 1 साल का program है. You pay the fee to the university, they do the professional year program for you. They give you internship in last 3 months, but it's quite worthy. 5 points really matters. So एक और benefit है study in Australia का, you're able to do a professional year program. Now good news for 476 graduates, those who are offshore. And now they would be getting visas very soon because obviously the Australian immigration has just started processing their visas. आप प्रोफेशनल ईयर प्रोग्राम कर सकते हैं अगर, क्योंकि आप इंजीनियरिंग बैकग्राउंड से हैं. सिंस यू गॉट द 476 is an eligible visa to do a professional year program. So this is the only subclass which is allowed to do PY. Now since 476 is specifically for engineers, so only you can do the engineering PY, which is again a bit expensive, but again worth it. Let's go to the next slide. So this is the overall summary. So maximum age 44 years, positive skill assessment you needed. We already discussed about this one. IELTS minimum 6, go up to 8. 8 gives you maximum points. 65 minimum requirement points are required in order to meet the point test. Whereas I told you the for state sponsorship you need 60 and 50, and state gives you 5 or 10, 15 according to the subclasses we are applying for. And then there is an expression of interest. So once you meet all these upper 4 requirements, you would able to apply for an expression of interest. That is the first stage in order to inform department that you wanted to apply for PR. There's a separate application we need to work on. So let's go to the next slide now. So we'll take a short break. After the break, we'll discuss about the Northern Territory State Sponsorship graduate stream. Like if you go to Australia and study in NT, what's going to be the options for you? So let's take a break. So, कौन बताएगा एंटी क्या होता है? One of our territory in Australia, different states or territories जो हैं वो sponsorships देती हैं. Depends on उनकी जो list है उसमें occupation आप कॉल करते हैं या अगर आप state sponsorship स्टडी पाथवे के लिए क्या होता है? अच्छा, आप लोग जो आए वो स्टडी पाथवे के लिए आए हैं इमिग्रेशन? इट्स गोना बी बेनिफिशियल फॉर यू, बट अगर बहुत ज़्यादा लेंथी हुआ तो विल डू द वन टू. We're done with the break? All right, welcome back guys. So let's start with the NT sponsorship options. So we'll cut the story very short. We'll do the summarized version of NT state sponsorship. NT state sponsorship, right now they are not giving it for offshore applicants. So जो offshore हैं, like जो ऑस्ट्रेलिया में नहीं है, उनके लिए एंटी स्पॉन्सरशिप एट द मोमेंट क्लोज है। जो ऑन शोर हैं उनके लिए टेक्निकली देयर आर 2 सब क्लासेस 190 एंड 491। आपने स्टडी करना है 2 years वहाँ पे, 6 months अगर एनटी में रहेंगे, प्लस फर्दर आपके पास फुल वर्किंग राइट्स हैं, लाइक आप स्टडी अप्लाई करते हैं उसके बाद आपको 2 years का टीआर मिलता है, तो आप 190 के लिए अप्लाई कर सकते हैं। ठीक है, अब नेक्स्ट स्लाइड पे अगर हम जाते हैं तो 491 की भी ऑलमोस्ट सेम रिक्वायरमेंट है, बट अगेन आपको 6 महीने और नहीं रहना है एनटी में। तो आप जैसे ही 2 साल फिनिश करेंगे, यू हैव योर स्किल असेसमेंट, यू कैन अप्लाई फॉर 491। So that's the whole scenario. Normally we have a strategy here that you should go with another stretch of 3 months. हम आपके लिए 190 भी try कर सकते हैं. So that is something we can try it for you. Let's go to the next slide. The requirements are pretty easy. जो हमने 190, 491 के लिए requirements दी थी, तो this is also for offshore. You need to ensure that आप ये requirements meet कर रहे हैं, apart from the study one. So you need a skill assessment. You at least need to have minimum 50 points for 491. 60 points for 190. आपका लिस्ट ऑक्यूपेशन लिस्ट में होना चाहिए। अगर आप ऑन शोर स्टडी करते हैं एनटी में, तो आपको रिगार्डलेस ऑफ वॉट एवर द लिस्ट इज, आप स्टिल अप्लाई कर सकते हैं, पर अगर आप ऑफ शोर अप्लाई करना चाह रहे हैं तो आपका लिस्ट में होना चाहिए। नो मैटर, सो देयर आर समवेयर अराउंड 400 to 600 occupations where you can apply. ठीक है, let's go to the next slide. So these are the requirements for the graduate, so we won't be touching much into this one. Those who are onshore, we can definitely look into that one. So let's go to the next slide. Important link. So we'll be sharing this one to our social media after once we finish our today's education migration seminar. You might be getting this link into the newsletter as well. You need to click this one. This will directly go to your Northern Territory State Sponsorship website. So जैसे ऑफशोर एप्लीकेंट्स हैं वो भी वेट कर रहे हैं 1 जुलाई के लिए, उनके लिए डायरेक्ट लिंक होगा कि आप क्लिक करके चेक कर सकते हैं वेदर ऑफशोर एप्लीकेंट्स आर नाउ दे आर टेकिंग ऑफशोर एप्लीकेंट्स और नॉट। ठीक है, लेट्स गो टू द नेक्स्ट। साउथ ऑस्ट्रेलिया स्पॉन्सरशिप्स के बारे में बात कर लेते हैं वेरी क्विकली। लेट्स गो टू द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड प्लीज। अगर आप वहाँ स्टडी कर रहे हैं तो ऑब्वियसली आपको 1 साल स्टडी करना है। अगर आप ऑफशोर अप्लाई कर रहे हैं तो स्टडी रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है। At the moment, South Australia की offshore requirement ये है कि you must need to have 8 each in IELTS or equivalent PT and minimum 8 years of experience. So if you don't have these two, unfortunately, you cannot apply from offshore. So पाकिस्तान में जो लोग हैं उनको भी 1 जुलाई का वेट करना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि 1 जुलाई के बाद ही न्यू रूल्स आने वाले हैं। Third, the most important part is to have your occupation into a South Australia list. उनका एक स्मार्ट सर्च है, साउथ ऑस्ट्रेलिया एसएमपी आप सर्च करेंगे, यू गो टू द लिस्ट, क्लिक ऑन द लिस्ट, सर्च योर ऑक्यूपेशन, इफ द ऑक्यूपेशन इज देयर देन यू वुड एबल टू अप्लाई, अदरवाइज यू कैन नॉट। रेस्ट इज अ प्रीटी जेनेरिक, तो आप इसको पढ़ सकते हैं और एज कोई फर्दर इसमें रिक्वायरमेंट्स नहीं है। लेट्स गो टू द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड। नाउ अगेन जो ऑन शोर हैं, जो स्टडी वीजा पे हैं, वो मिनिमम 20 hours per week एक्सेप्टेबल है वर्क। Previously it was full time, but now they've reduced down to 20 hours per week. So अगर nominated occupation में experience का required है, तो South Australia 20 hours per week को भी accept करेगा। Let's go to the next one. Even for offshore के लिए भी अगर आप part time काम कर रहे हैं पाकिस्तान में, still acceptable. You don't need to have a full time job. Depends on which occupation you're applying for. All right. Generally, most of the occupation accept 20 hours per week. There are some waivers here, so we won't be discussing on the waivers much. It's more for the onshore. The only summarized version here is that if you're working in a regional South Australia or if you live there for 12 months, then you get the waiver. You don't need to work in a nominated occupation. So ये आपको waiver मिल जाता है. Let's go to the next slide. It's pretty much the same we have already covered. So if you're a high performance graduate, you have a high GPA, state gives you priority to apply for the state sponsorship. So study visas पे बहुत सारे options available होते हैं, especially when you are in Australia. Let's go to the next slide. Again, same चीज़ है, pretty much same thing. We won't be discussing this one. Let's go to the next slide. Important points to work out. So जो आपका मास्टर्स डिग्री है, अगर आप मास्टर्स कर रहे हैं, डिप्लोमा नहीं कर रहे हैं, तो मिनिमम 78 वीक का क्रैक कोर्स है अगर आप 2 years स्टडी प्रूव कर रहे हैं, ठीक है। रेस्ट यू कैन डू 46 weeks of study as well. So there is no much requirement in order to meet the 78 and 92 weeks. Now they have changed the policy to only have 1 year of study. So say if you're studying in Melbourne for 1 year, आप साउथ ऑस्ट्रेलिया मूव कर रहे हैं फॉर स्टेट स्पॉन्सरशिप और आपने 1 साल मेलबर्न में पढ़ा है मास्टर्स, तो आपने सिर्फ सेकेंड ईयर जो है वो साउथ ऑस्ट्रेलिया में पढ़ना है. That leads you to apply for 49190, depends on the requirement. Let's go to the next slide. Again, there would be a link there. We'll be sharing that one for you. That will lead to the South Australia skill list. Let's go to the next slide. Queensland state sponsorship. Queensland, let's go to the next slide, please. So Queensland main city is, who's going to tell me? What's the capital of Queensland? ब्रिस्बेन. यस, ब्रिस्बेन में आपने देखा होगा बहुत सारे क्रिकेट मैचेस होते हैं, ठीक है. तो ब्रिस्बेन इज वन ऑफ द रिसेंटली बहुत सारा फ्लड भी आया है, ठीक है. तो इट वाज क्वाइट डेवास्टेटिंग. अब ऑब्वियसली दे आर रिकवरिंग बैक. सो अगेन जैसा मैंने कहा, क्वींसलैंड भी अभी मेनली ऑनशोर एप्लीकेंट्स को कंसिडर कर रहा है. दे आर नॉट गोइंग टू द ऑफशोर, बट सूनर लेटर दे विल बी ओपनिंग अप फॉर ऑफशोर. ऑफशोर में मेनली दे टेक engineers बहुत ज़्यादा लेते हैं, IT professionals and nursing. So if you belong to these three industries, you have very good opportunity to apply for Queensland. Let's go to the next slide. Next, you need 80 points from offshore. So points यहाँ पे matter करते हैं. So you need to have high points in order to apply for Queensland. Small business operating भी है. So जो लोग क्वींसलैंड में बिजनेस कर रहे हैं, आफ्टर द स्टूडेंट वीजा यू मस्ट नीड टू हैव अ फुल वर्किंग राइट्स फॉर 491. तो टेक्निकली ये वो लोग हैं जो TR 485 में हैं या कोई और 482 या ऐसे वीजास पे हैं जो कि टेम्पररी है बट गिव्स यू अ फुल वर्किंग राइट्स. यू कैन अप्लाई फॉर दिस वन. Specifically right now lots of people are on 408. They can also apply because they have a full working rights. Now the only constraint with the 408 is that you are not you can't own a business because obviously working under an employer. So technically 408 be scrap ho jayega. Only option you have is either to be on 476 or 485 visa. So if you buy a business in Queensland and start, working there, the business needs to be in a regional area. So it can't be in a Brisbane. It has to be in a regional area. Somewhere around in urban Queensland के अंदर, आप rural Queensland के अंदर आपको लेना पड़ेगा, not in the urban areas because urban areas are quite densely populated, so they're not giving the sponsorship to that one. So अगर business लेते हैं और ये regional codes हैं आपके regional Queensland के, then you can apply after 6 months of operations. You can then apply for a Queensland small business 491. Let's go to the next slide. Now, criteria pretty much I've already explained you, so I don't think so there would be anything we need to repeat. The only thing here is that you need to run a business for 6 months. कोई franchisee नहीं होना चाहिए, आपका own business होना चाहिए, regional area में होना चाहिए. And the other thing is you need to hire one Australian employee in your business for minimum 3 months. It has to be full-time worker. All right, let's go to the next. So these are the important links. It's my small business occupation list or news guy, so you can just follow the links. We'll share you accordingly. You can also scan through the QR code if you're live. Let's go to New South Wales. Let's take a quick break. I need a water break. After a break, we'll be right back after the news sponsorship option.
Student visa. Is it your dream to study abroad, especially in Australia? Don't worry, we are here to assist you and guide you with your study visa process. Being MARA approved professional education visa consultants, we ensure you with maximum support and supervision.
Contact Think Higher Consultants at thinkhigher.com.au.
All right, we're back. Okay, that was quick. Okay, New South Wales is the only state as of now which is accepting offshore applications. So जो immigration करना चाह रहा है वो New South Wales state sponsorship apply कर सकता है. Minimum requirements यहाँ mention है. You must be under 45 years of age. जैसे ही आप 44 years 364 days are perfectly fine. As soon as you reach 45, you won't be able to apply. Secondly, you must need to have minimum 65 points and your expression interest must be lodged. Now हमने पहले भी डिस्कस किया था कि एक्सप्रेशन इंटरेस्ट लॉन्च करना है तो यू मस्ट हैव अ पॉजिटिव स्किल असेसमेंट. अब जो ऑक्यूपेशन आप बिलोंग करते हैं उसका हमें चेक करना पड़ेगा कि कौन सा स्किल असेसमेंट बॉडी है, उस लिहाज से उनकी क्या रिक्वायरमेंट है दैट वी नीड टू डिस्कस. देन इंग्लिश कोर्स आपको रिक्वायर्ड है मिनिमम 6 ईच, कॉम्पिटेंट इंग्लिश है 6 ईच. अदरवाइज if you have studied in one of these countries और आप citizen है इस countries के तो आप still Australian immigration apply कर सकते हैं. You must hold a valid skill assessment, already बात कर ली है, और based on your occupation and the skill assessment body we need to check your requirements. Currently residing in New South Wales, now this is obsolete. सिर्फ currently residing in New South Wales नहीं but offshore applicants भी apply कर सकते हैं. ठीक है, अगर EOI सबमिट नहीं होगा और बेसिक डिटेल्स नहीं होंगी, इसमें करंट डिटेल्स नहीं होंगी and has to be updated one, then they won't be inviting you. So you need to make sure that your EOI is 100% updated. Let's go to the next slide. Now यहाँ 3 स्ट्रीम्स हैं न्यू साउथ वेल्स की. एक तो वो है जो करंटली स्टडी कर रहे हैं न्यू साउथ वेल्स में. 2 और स्ट्रीम्स हैं जो ऑफशोर एप्लीकेंट्स और ऑनशोर एप्लीकेंट्स के लिए, उस पर भी हम क्विकली बात करेंगे ताकि आप अपने आप को असेस कर सकें कि अगर आप उस स्टेट के लिए मीट करते हैं या नहीं. स्टडी की बात कर लें तो यू विल समराइज दिस क्विकली. यू नीड टू स्टडी देयर फॉर 2 years. स्टडी रीजनल न्यू साउथ वेल्स में ही होना चाहिए. योर ऑक्यूपेशन नीड्स टू बी न्यू साउथ वेल्स लिस्ट. जब आप 2 साल स्टडी कर लेंगे उसके बाद आपने लिस्ट भी चेक करना है. सो अगेन इफ यू आर गोइंग टू न्यू साउथ वेल्स in a sense that you wanted to get a regional state sponsorship 491, then you can't guarantee or nobody can guarantee you that the list would be remain same after 2 years. So that would be the risk you need to take it. कोई भी आपको नहीं बता सकता कि आफ्टर 2 years क्या लिस्ट होगा. तो अगर आप 2 साल स्टडी के लिए रीजनल न्यू साउथ वेल्स में जा रहे हैं, सो यू डूइंग एट योर ओन रिस्क एंड असेसमेंट. जनरली लिस्ट चेंज नहीं होती है, तो मोस्ट लाइकली अगर कोई जा रहा है तो दे आर प्रीटी सेफ, बट अगेन देयर इज नो गारंटी ऑन दिस वन. आपने रहना और पढ़ना दोनों रीजनल न्यू साउथ वेल्स में. ऐसा नहीं कर सकते कि आप पर रीजनल में रहें और सिडनी जा रहे हैं जॉब करने के लिए. दैट्स नॉट पॉसिबल. ठीक है, आपने रीजनल एरिया में ही रहना होगा. लेट्स गो टू द नेक्स्ट स्ट्रीम. सो नाउ दिस इज लिविंग एंड वर्किंग in regional area. Sorry for the typo off. Anyway, so to be eligible under the stream 1, so this is called the stream 1. Okay, so hold a valid skill assessment for occupation that appears in stream 1 combined list. So you need to be in a list for this one. You must be living and working in your nominated occupation New South Wales. Again, अगर आप accountant हैं तो आपने accountant ही काम करना है regional New South Wales में in order to meet this one. For requirement quite basic hai, and you need only 65 points. So that's easy, and part-time work is also acceptable, which is good. Let's go to the next slide. Now this is quite lucrative for outside regional New South Wales, like interstate भी हो सकता है, offshore भी हो सकते हैं. Anyone can apply for stream 3. Competition obviously ज़्यादा है, so you may get lesser chance to get invite, but again you can apply. Just need to have a valid skill assessment और आपका occupation जो है वो preferred list में होना चाहिए. That's it. That's the basic requirement. Apart from that, जो basic requirements हमने discuss की थी, जो founding requirements है like your skill assessment 65 points, that stays the same. This is on top requirement which you need to meet. उसमें वो यही कह रहे हैं कि आपने preferred occupation list में होना चाहिए. That's all they needed. Let's go to the next slide. अगेन इंपॉर्टेंट लिंक्स हैं. यहाँ से आपको ऑक्यूपेशन लिस्ट मिल जाएगा. सेकंड लिंक से यहाँ से रिक्वायरमेंट्स मिल जाएंगी. एंड आई बिलीव दैट इज स्पेसिफिकली फॉर 491 हाउ टू अप्लाई फॉर रजिस्ट्रेशन ऑफ इंटरेस्ट टू R1. लेट्स गो टू द नेक्स्ट. आई थिंक विक्टोरिया स्टेट स्पॉन्सरशिप एट द मोमेंट. लेट्स गो टू द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड. Victoria at the moment only onshore applicants को invite कर रहा है. There is no offshore options as of now. And the eligibility criteria is quite simple. 49 में अगर आपने अप्लाई करना है तो you must be in a regional Victoria. Like आप मेलबर्न में नहीं रह सकते, आपने regional Victoria में रहना है. And your occupation must be in one of these target sectors. So rather than occupation based, they have done a target sector. So for instance, आप एक accountant हैं और hospital में काम कर रहे हैं, you're still eligible to apply. If you're an IT professional working in an accounting firm, you're still eligible to apply. All right, so you can cross move the industries, but you need to be in a target sector. ऐसा नहीं है कि IT professional है तो आपने software house में ही काम करना है. So that's the benefit of Victorian 491. So ultimately, the summarized version, bottom line is that you need to work in your nominated occupation. ये ज़्यादा important है. Let's go to the next slide. Same for 190. For 190 का फायदा ये है कि आप anywhere in Victoria रह सकते हैं. So it can be in Melbourne as well. So if you're in Melbourne, but again, competition would be higher. You at least need to strive for more points. But again, it's a good opportunity for those who are working in the nominated occupation. Again, target sector में काम करना है और target sector में jobs मिलना है, it's a bit tougher. But again, you never know what's gonna happen. Let's go to the next slide. These are the important points. Again, links हैं, you can work out accordingly. Let's go to the next slide, please. All right. Last Western Australia state sponsorship. Let's go to the next slide. अच्छा, in short मैं summarize कर देता हूँ. Western Australia will open up their offshore applications from 15th of July. They have got enough quota for onshore. अब वो offshore के लिए भी open करने वाले हैं. उनकी एक लिस्ट है, जिस लिस्ट से आपने अपने occupation को match करना है. Apart from that, what they require is to at least have a job offer in Western Australia. So अगर आप offshore हैं, आपके पास अगर job offer नहीं है onshore, means in Australia, you cannot apply. So that is the requirement you need to meet. Now, hopefully, if they waive off the offshore requirements और उसकी जगह वो experience requirement ले आते हैं, तो वो ज़्यादा better है, क्योंकि job offer is nearly impossible if you're in Pakistan. Let's move out these slides. Next करते जाएं, please. Next. All right, so Tasmania है. Tasmania again one of the good state. They are open for offshore. So अगर आपने Tasmania apply करना है तो आप Tasmania के लिए भी apply कर सकते हैं from offshore. They have pretty basic formula. You need to lodge an EOI. आपका occupation उनकी Tasmania list में होना चाहिए. EOI apply करें. They will pick your EOI. There is no separate further requirements to meet. If they feel your profile is good, वो आपको pick करेंगे and then you can apply for the visa. That's the basic requirements they have. So only to lodge an EOI and then done and dusted for offshore applicants. Move the slides. Relevant नहीं है ये slides ये graduates के लिए. Let's done. All done. So that's all for today. So we have covered almost all the states along with the journal skill migration requirements. Now, if you have any questions, you can ask right now. Otherwise, we can do a QA session, one-to-one QA session in the counseling rooms. So, any questions? आपके पास आपको कोई question है? नहीं, all good. All right. So let's wrap this up, and inshallah, we'll meet you in the next slide.